So the Browns have won 3 out of their last 5, defeating the Super Bowl contending Bengals, defeating Tom Brady and the Bucks. Deshaun Watson is back. But are we happy? Are we comfortable with the Browns' performance? Drew, let's go to you first here. What did you think about Deshaun Watson in his opening performance against the Texans?
Yeah, I mean the essentially most of this season, everybody has said, well, when Deshaun comes back, it's not like he can fix the defense and the special teams. I don't know. Looks to me like Deshaun Watson single-handedly fixed the defense and the special teams. I mean, maybe, maybe there's nothing to that. I have no idea. Maybe they just were playing the worst team in the league. Maybe that has something to do with it. But he seems to have single-handedly fixed the defense and the special teams. So it was obviously, the best effort that I've seen from the Brown special teams in quite some time. They actually covered the kicks. They recovered, dealt with an onside kick correctly. They returned a punt for a touchdown. Obviously, that's the one that people will notice. But they really made some big plays. 2 touchdowns on defense, a touchdown on special teams. I read somewhere that before this game, the record for most points scored without scoring an offensive touchdown was something like 23. The Browns now owned that record, having put up 27 points without one offensive touchdown, which is sort of hard to do. There was a lot to find fault in with this game, and I'll certainly sort of come back to that when we get into Deshaun a little more here. But if this defense and special teams, the way that they have played the last 2 years, they really start to figure it out come December, and the defense and the special teams start playing a little better. I don't know why they can't replicate that. I don't know why it takes an entire season to figure that out, but it seems to. That's a bit of an indictment on the coaching staff, I think. But here we are. It's December, and once again, the defense and the special teams look to be pretty good. So if they continue to get just incredible effort and incredible plays out of those 2 units, I'm hopeful that the offense can turn it around. I saw a little bit, but you have to really squint through some pretty rose-colored glasses to get to the positives on that side of the ball.
It's a week where I'm glad to not be a Texans fan. That was an embarrassing performance. We saw Baker Mayfield getting cut, but then signed by the Rams. Comfortable without Baker, even though we wish him well. But Eric, what did you see with this offense? How in the world do we not score a touchdown against one of the worst teams in the NFL this year?
Well, I'm going to go back to the quarterback position. Deshaun Watson, 12 of 22, 131 yards and 1 interception. Overall, a poor outing. It's not the end of the world, at least not yet. Some negatives. There was the misread of the end zone. I believe Cooper was going one way and he thought DPJ was going to go the other way. He threw it right to the Texans. Can't have that. There were multiple short throws that he decided to make extra short by throwing it into the ground. I'm hoping that's a one-off or a 5-off or however many there were. The positive was that Stefanski kind of took the ball out of his hands and did something he should have done many weeks prior and let the running attack kind of salt the game away. But hopefully they can get rid of those negative plays. On the positive ends, I did see a couple things that Deshaun Watson does inherently better than Jacoby Brissett. The escapability, one of the third down plays early in the game, he avoided a sack and was able to get off a somewhat okay pass. It was a little low, incomplete, but he has that escapability to not only lose 5 or 6 yards, but pick up 10, 15 on the way. He flashed his speed. I know he pulled the ball down a few times and was able to run right off tackle for a couple of yards. Again, something that this offense has been lacking all year. and his quickness and ability to step in the pocket. The play that he made to Anthony Schwartz, which was ultimately fumbled, was a great play. He did step up in the pocket, moved. That could have been a really, could have led to a touchdown if we didn't have the turnover there. But it's plays like that that give me confidence that he's going to kind of get this rectified and, have this offense kind of in a much better situation than they were last week. Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to the ball position. I think that's a given. To make sure you're throwing it right right where the receiver's hands are, not where their feet are. But I think getting David Njoku back should help this offense this week. He has hinted on social media that he will be returning. Anthony Schwartz has a concussion. I mean, he hasn't been very visible all year, so that's not a tremendous loss. He does have speed, but again, he's made like 2 plays all year.
Addition by subtraction, that guy.
David Bell had a hand injury. I'd like to see him get more time and kind of get working with this offense, but if he's not good to go, then somebody else, I guess Demetric Felton or somebody else is gonna have to step up. So I just think it's, the offense needs to get in rhythm and sync and, used to a different quarterback, a different person, different speed, different velocity on their throws. So obviously we're going to be playing much more difficult competition this week, but I think they are capable of getting not close to where they need to be, but much better than they were last week.
Ryan, if I could just real quick on this topic, Jake Burns on Twitter, excellent follow. He tweeted out something, but allowed me to sort of squint through and put on the rose-colored glasses. The Browns called more RPOs in this game than they had something like in the history of Kevin Stefanski's time here. So that the offense hadn't necessarily practiced a lot of that. I mean, they couldn't have. They didn't have a quarterback who could run it. So hoping that those go a little better. And then there were some, Eric noted some like those zone reads that, I think they'll get better with. And as defenses have to account for the quarterback, they have to, add another layer to that run game. You won't see those outside zone runs hopefully get sort of caught from behind from that backside defensive end. So there's reason to be a little optimistic, even though that was a very rusty and very sort of poor performance from Deshaun. You hope it gets better, and you hope it gets better quick.
It felt like DPJ, Kareem Hunt, more involved in the offense like that. Jacoby Brissett has been so focused on Amari Cooper, but definitely maximizing the performances with Amari Cooper. Nick Chubb's been a constant. Great to see him get the ball. So we will see going against the Bengals this weekend. Will Deshaun Watson show up a big matchup with Joe Burrow? Eric, how are you looking at this weekend, and what are some of the key aspects? Is it does our offense get back on track, which we normally do in Cincinnati?
Yes, we do. Okay. Historically, yeah, it's going to be a tough, tall order. Looking at the line, that was kind of interesting. It opened at 4.5 and went pretty much immediately to 6. So a lot of money coming in towards the Bengals side. I think their win over the Chiefs, I'm not going to call it their Super Bowl because they actually have been to one, but it was one of their biggest games of the year. I'm hoping that's going to lead to a kind of a letdown game for the against the Browns, although it is a division game, very important one. Having Jamar Chase back for them is going to be really difficult for our defense. Martin Emerson's been playing well as a rookie. Denzel Ward had another touchdown, didn't really take much effort. They pretty much gave him the touchdown, but hey, we'll take it. Greg Newsome almost had an interception, which could have been a pick six last week. The secondary is going to be tested once again. You got Taki coming off, going to be out for the rest of the year. We're very thin at linebackers, so if they're going to be running the ball between the tackles and the defensive line, most notably the interior, is not being disruptive, could be in for a long day on the ground. The Bengals pretty much strayed away from running the ball against this last game, and that kind of showed. The Browns were able to impose their will and kind of get out to a lead that They never relinquish. So I'm hoping they go with that same game plan again, except, like I said, Jamar Chase is here, which he was not in the first contest. So, I mean, yeah, ultimately Deshaun Watson's going to have to make plays. He's going to have to get guys involved, and hopefully he's accurate enough and can make enough plays that kind of get some of the guys out of the box that can allow Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt to kind of run with less guys dragging on them um, early in the play. Having said that, it's gonna be a tough task. It's gonna be a very challenging game, but I think the Browns have the ability to win, but they have to be clicking on all cylinders. They gotta play how they did last week in terms of causing turnovers. I don't expect them to have two defensive touchdowns and one special teams touchdowns, but if they can force those turnovers to Joe Burrow and get in good field position and have the offense make the type of plays they need to do, there's a chance for that upset. So, yeah, I'm not gonna flush it away right now, but it's gonna take a lot.
This was one of our key games as we were looking at closing out this season strong, potential playoff considerations on the line. We really need to win the rest of the games, having lost one since we have last talked. But Drew, how are you looking at this game? Deshaun, he might be a pretty comfortable environment going back to the Texans, minus the fans, everything that's going on there. But playing your former home, weather's pretty good. Might be a little bit different in Cincinnati.
Yeah, it's certainly you're not going to get a half full stadium there with where 50 people are your friends and family, right? It's not going to be that way. That stadium will be sold out. That will be the more proper welcome that you sort of expected from that. But you got this just embarrassing showing out of the Houston fans. So you won't see that in Cincinnati. That stadium will be very loud. That stadium will be angry at Deshaun and at the fact that the Cleveland Browns have straight up owned their franchise. So they're going to be very vocal. They're going to be very upset at just the Browns in general and specifically Deshaun Watson. I'm interested to see how he responds to that. He obviously has to have a significantly better game. The only thing I keep going back to is, for whatever reason, I wish I could explain it, but we seem to have this team's number. I say we, the Cleveland Browns seem to know what it is the Bengals are trying to do specifically with their defense. This defense has been very good for the Bengals. They confuse a lot of offensive coordinators. They show 5 or 6 people. Anybody could come at any time. Like, you don't know where that's coming from. And Kevin Stefanski has been able to sort of solve that riddle. So I look forward. I look for him to continue that. He seems to have a good game plan always against this specific team for whatever reason. And yes, they get Jamar Chase back, but the Cleveland Browns didn't have Denzel Ward in that first game either. So it'll be interesting to see that matchup as well. 2 of the league's best going against each other. Always an interesting one. I don't know. I certainly, the Bengals have the better team on paper here. If we look at like what they've done recently, what the Browns have done, the Bengals just beat Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. It's hard to say I think the Browns are going to go in and beat them, but they have owned this team for whatever reason over the last several years. And Joe Burrow's been there. Jamar Chase has been there for most of that time. I'm interested to see what happens this go around. I think the Browns have a very good chance to steal this upset.
A couple of X factors that we've described here, small wrestling reference there, but Deshaun is going to be the one that we're focused on. Welcome to the AFC North. We see some great quarterbacks, at least in Baltimore and Cincinnati. We're coming off of a great quarterback in Pittsburgh. They're trying to figure out who's next. But Deshaun, it's going to be this weather. It is going to be this challenge for the rest of this contract and the time that you're in Cleveland. I think it's going to be a tough one, but let's see what Deshaun is made of. Let's see what the Browns are made of in a crucial game to finish out the season strong.